Hey there! Long time no see. Um, just was reading something somewhat interesting. Keeping with my new philosophy, I decided to immediately do some recording as opposed to just filing it and hoping to do it later because later often never comes. And I seem to have I don't seem to have the same self consciousness I did before. Just haven't been recording because I don't know. It's the usual thing. I just didn't feel like there's much point to it. I haven't seen my friend Andrew in a while. He'll watch this probably. Sorry about that, Big A. We just haven't, our schedules haven't been in sync, basically. It's a far cry from the days when we'd always have a Saturday to play Myth and whatnot, eh? It's kind of too bad. Wish we had those days back. But as soon as I have a more normal schedule, I will reserve probably one day for him and a day for another friend of mine. Everyone should have a 3-day weekend. 2 days is just not enough. Alright, back to, I'm going to try to keep this under 10 minutes just because it's a pain in the butt otherwise. So let's go to what I was looking at before. While the tiny bit of inspiration is still there. Of course, the camera wasn't, my camera did, I had to shut down the computer completely. So there's got to be some sort of little thing to attempt to drain your momentum if you attempt to do something. Here we go. Very good. So this is a bit in Salon, which isn't really the greatest place on the web, but whatever. But I actually rather like this. I got it from a link from FARC, which was basically saying that conventional religion is fading, and here are the 3 new contenders. So I was like, all right, whatever. I'll take a look. So it's amazing. Sometimes you get to an article that's just complete 100% propaganda. Like it has absolutely it's there's no actual attempt to communicate or thinking in there. It's just literally propaganda. So let's see. It's called "Secular Humanists on the Real Planet of the Apes." Let's see. Blah 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 blah. As per usual, it's funny. The things I think about any particular, like an article or something, it's got very little to do with all of the title and the name and all of the specifics. It just inspires a particular thought. Blah, 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 blah. So this had a lot, I don't know, it sort of talked about how in the past presidents would be, effectively the most educated and often more secular, even though the times were more religious. Where now it's actually kind of the reverse, which makes sense. Things are always like that. They always flip-flop. Nowadays, times are technically less religious in some ways, but the leading candidates tend to, 100%, well, at least in the States, they have to have some sort of, religious sentiment because otherwise you're not in with God. God! It's kind of hard to summarize, I guess. But the point I liked, I guess, the real point was, what was it? Well, the three things are what? Secular humanism, atheism, the new aggressive Richard Dawkins. Well, it's not really that new, but that's been, like the guy says, actually, it's been around since like in that form for decades, like maybe since the 80s, I think, or the 70s, or maybe the 60s even. But secular humanism, atheism, and what was the other one? Creationist, professional. Oh, radical environmentalism, which is best understood as a kind of nature-worshipping pantheism. So yeah, radical environmentalism, new atheism, and secular humanism. And he does a good analysis of their sort of weaknesses and stuff. The reason I want to just sort of find this interesting is this is the concern of right now. I mean, this is whether people know it or not. And it ties in with what this guy's talking about, which is my current interest, which is mythology. And that may not seem to make sense, but 5 minutes left. The current problems in society, the current, things seem kind of, there seems to be a lack of fundamental order. It's like, you know what I mean? Like there's things missing that should be there. And I've recently kind of figured out, I think, what on just the purely, a lot of my interests are pretty esoteric, and this is as well, that this is a very human, central to human, regular human society concern, even if, again, they don't know it, is we don't have effective mythology anymore. And you might think, so what? What is mythology? Mythology is a bunch of stories about gods in the sky, And that, of course, is part of the problem as well, is anti-religionism, which I can totally understand as well. You know what I mean? I'm not a fan of organized religion. It's basically a shell. But the fact is, and of course that and that brings up why, I in particular am talking about this. If you have, there's very few people watching this. Basically, there are elements of reality, call them spiritual or occult or whatever, religious, magical, that actually exist. And there has to be certain structures in place in mundane society to interface with that stuff. Because it exists. And if there's no structures in place to interface with it, then it'll interface anyway. But there won't be any human-controlled and mediated structures to do so. So it tends to put humans on the short end of the stick. I know that's pretty vague if you don't know exactly what I'm talking about, but that sums it up pretty well. And again, that really, I can see why people, the issues of the day are so large that they actually link up, because this is a time of change, of course. I mean, everybody's noticed that, obviously, the 20th century, the 21st century. We're obviously in a highly, an accelerating movement towards something. And it isn't anything in particular, like when I say, a movement towards something, like, that somebody can choose a particular goal. I just mean things are changing, as they always do, and of course there's a certain structure to that change. This is obviously an era of a lot of change happening in our particular little corner of the universe. And the thing is, it involves everything right now. It involves politics. It involves back to that my point there. Yeah, science. The mythical, the structures I was talking about used to be, of course, incorporated into religion, back when religion was more relevant. And it actually worked fairly well, because even though a lot of it is just, jibber-jabber, the fundamental structures actually did what they're supposed to do, which is to provide a channel for certain activities and energies of humanity and other things, and the interface between the two. But the fact is, science, in a way, purified things by smashing all of the parts of the religions that basically, this is actually any sort of wishful thinking part of it. You know what I mean? Like any part that was kind of, don't look at that part too close, and then the rest of it works. Well, science went, well, look, none of this literally happened. None of this is literally true. This is not historical fact. This is not reality. And that's true. Again, there's no defense against that. And of course, that depowered pretty much a huge section of reality, of human reality. And that's never been repowered. Those things that science smashed, it hasn't unsmashed. And of course, I'm kind of coming to the point a little roundabout there. But and of course, that's the problem with secular humanism. Secular humanism is an attempt to have a religion without religion. It's a science religion. And of course, since it is, it's completely artificial. It's like eating the goo from the Matrix, It has everything a body needs, except it's utterly disgusting and unsatisfying, and it doesn't work. It's the same type of thing. Anyway, so this is all. Maybe I'll record a sequel tomorrow. Talk to you later.